So we have some disheartening news from the FCC. They voted today on the net neutrality rules. I'm going to go to an article here in the New York Times who writes that the agency has voted to scrap net neutrality rules that prohibited broadband providers from blocking websites or charging for higher quality service or certain content. It also would give them the ability to block certain content from their competitors. So that's a major problem. Now, the federal government also said that they will no longer regulate high-speed internet delivery if it were utility, like phone services. So again, that's a bit disastrous. Ajit Pai, chairman of the commission, said the rollback of the rules would, in his words, help consumers eventually, because broadband service providers like AT&T and Comcast and Verizon, whom Pai was a lobbyist for, could offer people a wider variety of service options. Interesting. Now, Title II has nothing to do with what service options these providers would be able to provide. All it says is that, hey, you must treat all content on the internet equally. You cannot block, you cannot throttle, you can't slow down, you can't prevent access to certain websites. You have to treat everything equally, right? Even if you're, because here's how it works. You have a couple of very large telecommunications companies that are basically your ISPs. Those are the gatekeepers to the internet. Those are the people that you pay to go and access the internet through. So now these companies obviously they're not just ISPs, they're also television companies, and they're competing with each other for eyeballs, right? So these companies owning different smaller subsidiaries and things like that, or having stakes in them, they look at the potential to throttle content as a way to draw service away from their competitors into themselves. And that's the whole purpose. Yeah, we slow down their websites so they come to ours, and then we make money. Well, we don't want the internet to be able to do that. The internet thrived because of the fact that we didn't allow ISPs to slow people down. Now, why didn't we need net neutrality protections back in before 2015? Well, it was sort of an unspoken rule on the internet. But then these ISPs, which continue to grow larger and larger and have more power and more influence, began to think, hey, wait a minute, I can make more money if I can slow down, or if I can block websites, or if I can charge more for so-called fast lanes, which is actually known as paid prioritization, which is what Comcast is now looking to do. They're like, paid prioritization actually sounds kind of good. So in the weeks leading up to net neutrality, of course, Comcast and these other companies are like, no, we promise we won't block or throttle or do anything like that. Or paid prioritization. Oh, did we say that? Later on, they dropped that promise because, of course, they didn't need the promise. They're like, we plan on doing this anyway. Yes, we're gonna do paid prioritization. We're gonna offer fast lanes for people, although it's really not gonna be all that much faster because we haven't actually improved our infrastructure really at all because we don't need to. All we're gonna do is we're just gonna slow everybody else down, open up a normal lane, and this is what they could do without any sort of oversight or regulation, which is what the whole point of eliminating these Title II protections or Title II regulations, regulating them as common carriers. That's what allowed them to do. So they can make more money off the same speed. Again, we already pay for access. Now they have the ability to go and pay or to go and charge us for more just for that same amount of access. And then here come the ability for them to be able to basically segment the internet into packages. Oh, do you want to visit Netflix? Do you want to visit YouTube? Okay, let's give you a special video streaming service package for an extra $19.95 a month. Oh, you like going to Facebook and Instagram and Twitter? All right, we'll give you a social media package, extra $10 a month. That's what the internet could look like. It already actually looks like that in Portugal, which doesn't have net neutrality protections. So this is what the internet could look like. Now that Ajit Pai and the other commissioners, this was actually a 3-2 vote along party lines. So the two Democratic commissioners were like, no, we're going to keep net neutrality protections because we actually do believe in a free and open internet. But the other Republicans, including Ajit Pai, were like, no, we don't believe in that. We believe that Verizon has a right to a higher profit margin. Now, Pai said, quote, and this is before he cast the deciding vote, we are helping consumers and promoting competition. Broadband providers will have more incentive to build networks, especially to underserved areas. Really? They had no problem. It's not like they didn't have an incentive to do so before. And how does removing these protections, which just regulated them and told them that you can't do all these things, how's that going to spur that incentive? It's ridiculous. There's nothing in those Title II protections that actually prevented them from building more networks or making their networks better. So that's not true. That is a lie. In fact, according to Wired, many broadband providers actually did increase their investments, while those that cut back on spending told shareholders that the net neutrality rules didn't have any impact on their plans. So they had nothing to do with some of these people or some of these companies that were not spending, not investing. But that's their entire argument. Oh, the net neutrality rules, they're hurting investment, they're hurting companies. No, the companies are doing absolutely fine. The only reason you want to deregulate them is because these companies stand to make an enormous profit by being able to charge more for what we already have. And what we have sucks compared to the rest of the world. I mean, we pay more for internet here than anywhere in the developed world for speeds that are hardly competitive. South Korea, for example, has very cheap internet, but it's actually about 5 times faster than we get here in America under a much, much more expensive plan. So if you think it's bad now, it's probably going to get worse. Now, they also claim, oh, it's going to increase competition. It's a flat out lie. It's actually going to stifle competition and stifle innovation. So that's what we're looking at right here. Look, what they've done is that they've empowered the telecommunications companies massively. They'll be allowed to crush their competition and by slowing down their competitors' websites. And of course, independent media, look, I'm genuinely concerned about what this means for, independent media on YouTube, especially, or independent media on websites that, are unable to be able to pay the rates they're going to bring in. Now, look, it's not as if it's going to change tomorrow, right? And we're going to wake up and all this stuff is going to happen. It's going to be phased in, I think, over a long series of time until we can, wake up and we realize that the internet is entirely different. That is, that I believe is what's going to happen. They're going to phase it in. They're going to do it quietly. And what we're going to do here is we're going to keep it, we're going to pay attention. And it will be giving you some ideas on what's going on, what we're going to do to actually try to fight against this. But look, they've got much, much more power than they did before, and now they actually intend on using it. Gone are the promises of pre-2015 for net neutrality. Here it comes. Again, terrible ruling, but not at all unexpected. See, these Republicans, the Republican commissioners, Pai included, they serve their corporate donors. They serve the people that sign their paychecks, and we all know that. That's why any Republican administration was likely planning on doing this anyway. If it wouldn't have been the Trump administration, it would have been someone else. It would have been the Jeb Bush administration, which always makes me laugh, of how unlikely. It would have definitely been the Ted Cruz administration, because Ted Cruz, again, doesn't understand how the internet works. And it's like, oh, net neutrality. Oh, government regulation, automatically bad. But wait, the government has a role in regulating things so that it protects consumers from gigantic corporations. Don't care. If it's a government regulation, it must be bad. If it's a liberal idea, then it must be bad. ridiculous, right? And look, most people, they look at Pi's arguments, they disagree. I believe it was 83%, according to a recent poll, that disagreed with Ajit Pi's plan to dismantle net neutrality. It's incredibly unpopular with not just Democrats, but Republicans. 3/4 of Republicans, according to the same poll, said, no, don't touch net neutrality. We're fine with the government regulating internet as far as it means to, as far as it applies to making sure that every website is treated equally. Because it's not just left-wing websites, it's also right-wing websites that are also going to be impacted by this. So where's people on the alt-right? I mean, where are those guys? Where are the free speech advocates saying, hey, wait a minute here. We got a little bit of a problem here. We're going to have to fight back against the Trump administration for putting in this obvious corporate puppet into the FCC slot. Now, during the hearing, and again, Ajit Pai is not only is his plan incredibly unpopular, the guy is also incredibly unpopular, not just for doing this, but the way that he actually treated net neutrality proponents. He openly mocked them. He even openly mocked Mignon Clyburn. Hopefully I said her name right. That's the Democratic commissioner who in her statement said that she was, quote, outraged because the FCC pulls its own teeth, advocating responsibility to protect the nation's broadband consumers. So she made this very, very long, impassioned speech. I wish I had the video for you guys. Where, and it's a long speech about how net neutrality is important. And he just jokes. He laughs it off. He's like, oh, so we'll mark you down as a no, right? Jackass. He's a condescending asshole. Now, but look, again, this is what Republicans are like. And just like the EPA under President Trump and other Republican administrations, although Trump, I think, has taken it further than other administrations, as well as the Department of Education, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, on and on. All these agencies now are headed by people who no longer are looking out for the American citizen. Now they're just looking out for the corporation, the multinational corporation, and their interests. There's no agency left in the federal government that's actually looking out for the people now. The Republicans have finally gotten their way, and they've finally gotten their wish to dismantle everything that could possibly benefit regular people. Now we are the corporate states of America. So what can we do? Well, okay. So there's a couple of options. We can fight in the courts. In fact, I believe the New York Attorney General is already looking to sue or filing a lawsuit against the FCC over this ruling. So we can fight it in the courts, right? Success definitely not guaranteed. So that's going to be a tough one. Another suggestion is filing complaints against companies who actually start putting in these paid prioritization or blocking or start blocking and throttling and things like that. That is a possible avenue. I don't know. Again, I don't know how effective that is. And then there's the other one. Ron Placone actually mentioned in the show yesterday. We can actually start demanding our politicians, city councils, local politicians, set up municipal broadband companies. So, hey, man, you want competition? All right, we got some competition for you. Let's get some fiber optic in our neighborhood, in our local city, in our town. Maybe in our state. Washington State is already saying that we're going to protect net neutrality rules. And so that's one way states are fighting back. But again, on the local level, if you're looking at putting in municipal broadband, well, then you don't need those gatekeepers because you've got your own access. So that's and look, the big companies will likely try to buy off politicians to prevent that from happening. I know. That's why this is like, we got to do this right now. We should have been doing this the entire time. We got complacent after 2015. we thought that, hey man, net neutrality, done deal, right? I thought that. I was obviously massively wrong, and I didn't look towards the future. And look, again, we didn't have the foresight, but we should be fighting for municipal broadband in our states and cities, and it's never too late to start fighting. So that's something that I definitely recommend. So this is in the end, of course. We can always fight, right? We can't just throw up our hands and go, what are you going to do? Now they've got all the power. Sad day for us. No, we're going to keep fighting. Yes, this is a big, big loss. But you know what? That's just going to make us fight even harder for the principles of net neutrality. It ain't dead as long as it's in here and in here. So we're going to keep fighting for it. We're going to keep trying to hold these companies accountable. And eventually, I believe we will win this fight and restore the internet to what it's supposed to be. Free and fair for everyone.